We really have a great, great need for patience based on a few understandings. Here's what Ma says. Nothing happens before its proper time. You are only one factor. That's me talking. Okay? You are only one factor. You cannot make reality bend to your will. You simply can't. There's a problem with impatience and not understanding time. We have both impatience and we have a lack of understanding of time. The problem with our impatience is that it creates aggression. And we try to aggress on reality. And we try to bully reality into giving us what we want. And we forcefully arrange things. We're like, you know, building everything out of cement blocks as quickly as possible so we can get what we want. And it's very ugly and utilitarian and won't get us anywhere but a bunch of buildings made out of cement blocks. Nothing happens before its proper time. For example, this is a letter she wrote to a student. For example, I got your letter many days ago and I am replying to it today only. You know, I do nothing of my own will. This is Ma talking. As God makes me go, so I go. Even if I want to see you, I can't go. Why can't I do so? Be more mature and then you'll understand. If you're really paying attention to time and being in a natural response to that constellation of causes and effects, then you understand when you can go and when you can't go. I know how much you love me and how anxious you are to see me and to receive my letters, but tell me, are you able to make these things happen just as you want them to be? Keep in mind that there is a greater force, Mahashakti, beyond Icha Shakti, beyond willpower, as it's translated here. Beyond desire, there is a greater force, Mahashakti, the great energy of creation. And that, like the grand artist, the great energizer of all the creation, the creator of all these experiences, that is actually what is in control. We are an aspect of that, but only an aspect. So in a sense, we're like little speedboats trying to drag a giant yacht along with us, you know. This Mahashakti is huge. It includes this mandala of everything, right? And a lot of things fall into place to create that window of time that you're supposed to walk through, or that doorway that you're supposed to walk through. But instead, you're bashing into walls and sledgehammering them down, you know, not paying attention to anything. And so you don't get the best result. When we live in the world that way, what do we get? Well, sometimes we don't get anything that we want because we just blunder around so much that we screw everything up. Other times, we get what we want. That's even worse. No, seriously, it's worse. Because then we think we've succeeded, right? But what we don't realize is that if we had waited for the right time and followed the cues, we would have gotten a much better result, one that we couldn't have imagined. There is a proper time. So keep in mind that there is a greater force, Mahashakti, beyond Icha Shakti. Everyone is under its control. There is a proper time for everything. Wait patiently for it to arrive. Then problems will solve themselves of their own accord. That doesn't mean without effort. That doesn't mean without our participation. But those karmas, those impediments, those obstacles that we face, if we follow and listen for proper timing, they will melt away. Following proper timing and learning to be patient, learning to wait for the right time, listen for the right time, feel for the right time, ask for the right time. This is one of the great schoolings that you get when you become a serious practitioner. You learn how to do that. And the more you do that, the more you notice that when you wait for the right time, it's not like there might still not be what you consider to be an obstruction, but it will be much more open situation than it was when you were barreling through. So there's two considerations here. One is, what do you do with yourself while you're waiting? And the other thing is, how do you figure out the right time to do things? So the principle of figuring out the right time to do things is that, again, there's like this giant constellation of things that have to be in place. And I would say 87% of everything takes longer than we want it to. Even if it's just 15 minutes longer or a day longer, but sometimes it's 6 months longer or a year longer or 10 years longer or a lifetime or multiple lifetimes longer. There's things that I want as a person, as a practitioner, that Ma will not give me. I have some idea maybe why, but I don't really know why. But I do know one thing, it's not up to me. I can't just demand that reality give me what I want, right? And I also know that if I wait, that everything will work out for the best, that the best possible result is waiting. So there's some tools that we have at our disposal for figuring out timing. One of those tools is astrology, and another fantastic tool is divination. These are tools that allow us to ask questions of wisdom that maybe of a more enlightened wisdom that we may not have access to on a regular basis. That's what they're for. Astrology and divination are basically for asking wisdom questions that we can't get the answers to on our own. Some people in this culture think that that's weird, or they think astrology is bullshit, or they don't even know what divination is, and when they find out, they're just kind of like freaked out by it. But every practitioner, every great spiritual teacher, spiritual leader in every tradition uses these things. This is not something for babies. These tools are not for babies. The Dalai Lama uses divination. He uses oracles. He uses trance mediums. He uses astrology. Namkhai Norbu Rinpoche, my Dzogchen teacher, does the same thing. These are great spiritual teachers alive on the planet today. They are not going around thinking, I know everything, I'm not going to use these, this is stupid. And one of the great things about apprenticing yourself to one of these kinds of traditions is that you learn patience. I learned to be patient through doing divination, because like the first 10 years that I did divination, all it ever told me to do was wait, pretty much, like 90% of the time. And sometimes it was tremendously frustrating. I just felt like this, but it just kind of ground me down over time, right? Slowly, that process of doing the divination, I absolutely knew that I was being spoken to by wisdom. I had absolutely no doubt about that. So the idea that I would not listen was almost unthinkable. I would occasionally consider not listening for like a split second, but it was like not listening to Ma, basically, right? It would be like spitting in my guru's face to not listen. It's the same exact wisdom. So I learned, that's how I learned patience, through doing divinations. And when I was learning divination from the teacher who taught me that, and apprenticing myself to that craft, I was doing divinations every single day, and I just felt like I was being hemmed in from all sides all the time, pretty much. Being told to wait, to stop planning, to stop projecting, to stop just going for what I wanted all the time for years on end. And the result of that is that I feel tremendous confidence in nature, because I got to see over and over and over and over again that the result from waiting and listening to wisdom was beyond what I could have even imagined, and so much better than what the result I would have gotten if I had pushed ahead on my own. So those are the kinds of tools that we have. We also have just our own senses. We often ignore the messages that our own mind and senses are telling us. We can experience that feeling of anxiety and compulsion when we're rushing ahead, when we're doing something too quickly, too aggressively, without considering what our inner voice is really telling us. We all have a heart of wisdom. We all have that. And we all get messages from that heart of wisdom every day. Every day. And many of us in this culture just ignore that. It's inconvenient. It doesn't fit in with what we think we want. It seems weird because then we would do things that other people think are strange. One of the things that happens when you start listening to wisdom, when you start following that message that you're getting about this isn't right for me, or this isn't the right time for that, or I should wait, I shouldn't make a decision yet. When you start following those, because we're so speeded up, this is my experience anyway, that you often start getting into a situation, you're just speeding ahead with something, you get sort of part way into something, and then you start listening to wisdom, or you do a divination or something, or your teacher tells you, no, I don't think that's the right thing, but you're already like part way in, because you've rushed ahead without consulting any wisdom, your own wisdom heart or anything else, and then you have to pull out. So that's also a situation that I think was very common for me, and still does occur sometimes. I get, one of the, there's a few things that cause us to rush. One is just simple anxiety about getting things done. Another thing that causes us to rush is we want that accomplishment buzz. And then we get enthusiastic, right? There's the element of over-enthusiasm. We get enthusiastic and we don't consult wisdom, and then we just start making plans, and all of a sudden all we're doing is following conventional mind. That's all we're doing. We're not actually being in the situation. We're not feeling anything. We're just doing what our conventional mind and all those conventional structures that have been bequeathed to us by our culture and our families and etc., different called karmic circles we belong to. We're just following along on autopilot until, like, at some point, if we're lucky, we're like, but I don't actually want to buy a house. Wait a minute, what am I doing? Let's say we come into some money and someone says, oh, you should buy a house. Real estate's a good investment. Oh, great. Yeah, that's what everybody does. Oh, I'm so excited. Now I'm going to start looking at real estate ads, going around. I'm going to get involved with brokers, who are also like harbingers of rushing and doom. And, and all of a sudden, there I am, like on the brink of buying a house that I don't even want. What happened, I'm not saying that people can't buy houses. It's just an example, right? Just an example of things that we do.